Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and hello, and welcome to Books from My Library. My name is Kimolisa Mings. I am a reader, writer. I love to read and I love to write. Now, as a self-published author, I have to ask myself, how are readers going to find my books? And so it got me to thinking of the books that are in my library and how I discovered them. So, and here we are, Books from My Library. Now this week, we are looking at 3 books, and we're going to start off with Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid. Now, I got this book a long time ago, and I think it's not from Best of Books, the local bookstore, but I feel like it was the bookstore that was before that, which was in the Woods Mall, long time ago. And I got this because I was going to read a local author, or what is considered an Antiguan author, which is Jamaica Kincaid. And I feel it's more Antiguan book, is why I have it in my library. Not so much because I am endeared to the book or that I can tell you scenes from the book. And in a way, that's not why I want people to buy my books personally. I don't want it because, oh, it's an Antiguan author or it's a Caribbean author, but because they're interested in the story. And with this particular story, although it has Antigua as the backdrop, I think that's the main reason it's in my bookshelf. So the blurb is basically, the Isle of Antigua is a magical place. Growing up there should be a sojourn in paradise for young Annie John. But as the basket of green figs carried on her mother's head, there is a snake hidden somewhere within. Annie John begins by adoring her beautiful mother, but inexplicably she comes to hate her. Adolescence takes this brilliant, headstrong girl into open rebellions and secret discoveries, and finally to a crisis of emotions that wrenches her away from her island home. So, that is Annie John. Basically, a book set in Antigua by an Antiguan author. And that's why it's in my library. Now, what I'm doing today, this week, is going through in order. So this book, I'm feeling like I got it in my teens, which I'm afraid to say is over 20 years ago. But you can see that happens. So that is Annie John. And I feel like it may have been like maybe 15, 16 years old. And as you can see, it is a short read, but it has gotten a lot of acclaim, including the Los Angeles Times, the Columbia State, and the San Francisco Chronicle. So we have Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid. Now next we have Wicked. Now, I got this in my 20s and I would not have paid much attention to it if it wasn't for my friend in New York. I think I got this when I was living in New York, and through my friend I came across Gregory Maguire, and I read her book, which was Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, which was the retelling of the Cinderella story, and I really got into it. So when Wicked came out, I had some interest in it, but then it got acclaim, and it became one of those books to read. And it was a few years later that I got the paperback. And not all books are for everybody. I made it through. I remember scenes, but it's just not for me. This particular book is not for me, and yet it's still in my bookshelf. And I think it's more in homage to the writer more than the story, why it's in my library. And I would say I discovered this book because my friend had a book written by him that I read and I adored, and I followed up, and because so many people were saying how good this was, I ended up getting it myself. But it doesn't mean, just because everybody is lauding it, and even because it's become a Broadway play, it doesn't really mean that every book is for everybody. So we have Wicked. And just for a quick read through in the blurb, when Dorothy triumphs over the Wicked Witch of the West in L. Frank Baum's classical tale, we heard only her side of the story. But what about the arch nemesis, the mysterious witch? Where did she come from? How did she become so wicked? Gregory Maguire creates a fantasy world so rich and vivid that we will never look at Oz the same way again. Wicked is about a land where animals talk and strive to be treated like first-class citizens. Munchkinlanders seek the comfort of middle-class stability, and the Tin Man becomes a victim of domestic violence. And there is the little green-skinned girl named Elphaba? I hope I said that right. Who will grow up to become the infamous Wicked Witch of the West, a smart, prickly, and misunderstood creature who challenges all our preconceived notions about the nature of good and evil. Okay, now that I've read the blurb, I must say it achieved that. You know, I did feel for the Wicked Witch of the West. But am I going to read the book again? No. Would I tell others to read it? Maybe. Maybe. Sure. Wicked. Okay, and as usual, the last book is a non-fiction. And looking at it now, I kind of have to laugh because it's like, okay, I'm a black woman from the Caribbean. Why am I reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, my brother? That's why. Because my brother was really into it, and I must say it is a good read. I took away a lot from it, and it shows that although there are these bro-like things, they're not relegated to just the bros. And I must say that through it, I did develop a stream of income. And just on the side, I created a website called Bus Stop Antigua, which shows all the information of bus information in Antigua. So I must say, from steps in this book, such as identifying a niche, testing it, and then implementing it, it was a useful book. And how did I come across it? My brother, he suggested it, and this is actually one of 3 that we have because of him. This, I feel, was like the easiest read of them. The 4-Hour Body, I did take away things from that, but I just couldn't get into the 4-Hour Chef. But then again, with books, sometimes you're reading it at the time you need to read it. Sometimes it's just like, don't even bother because it's not right for you at that time. So, with that said, we have 3 books. How did I discover them? The first book is because it relates to where I'm from, which is Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid, and also the author is from my island. In some instances, whenever people refer to Jamaica Kincaid, they refer to her as an Antiguan author. And for Wicked, it's because my friend had one of his books I enjoyed it, and then also because it was held in high regard by society in terms of it being well reviewed and going to the point that it even had a Broadway play. So that's how come I have Wicked. And then the 4-hour work week is because my brother loved the book, and so I got the book and I found it helpful to the point that, and one of the important things about this particular book is, or all books, there are some things that you'll take and there's some things that you'll leave behind. And for instance, utilizing people from having virtual assistants on the other side of the world because you're taking advantage of the lower payroll. I wouldn't really do that because, hello, I'm one of those people from the other side of the planet, but I'm on the same side of the planet. Because, so that is one of the things like I'm not such a fan of, but I must say I did appreciate that there were steps. There were steps in terms of, okay, you have an idea, test your idea, implement your idea. And no, you're not going to have a 4-hour work week, but you will end up with something that you're proud of. And there you have it, 3 books from my library. And this week it became a situation of 2 basically word of mouth and 1 being in relation to me as an individual. So thank you very much for listening to me ramble about the books in my library, and I hope to see you next week. Cheers.